And introduce Ricardo. Ricardo Martinez from Allan County. He's a creative individual who is using his skills in writing, design, and podcasting to tell the stories of those he works with. For 13 years, he's answered the call and as a 911 dispatcher. Throughout his years in dispatch, he was able to go to school where he received an associate's degree in web development through Baker College, a bachelor's degree in graphic design through Full Sail University, and as well as his master's in new media journalism in March of this year. He launched Jabberlog, a blog about current events and his life stories. His personal blog post became a hit with his audience, and one such post even appeared on WordPress.com's freshly pressed section on their main page. From there, his blog opened doors that included promotions for businesses, artists, and musicians. He began doing multimedia stories that can be found on his YouTube channel. Through this program, he discovered podcasting. It spawned a series that tells the stories of those in the field of emergency services. He then created a podcast version of a segment on his blog called Within the Trenches, a section of writing based on his experience as a 911 dispatcher. And also 2 quick notes. First, make sure you do your overall conference evaluations. Those are your final evaluations for NENA. And the second one is there are certificates for attending. Jerry mentioned that they're right out there where we checked in at. Just grab them the next time you walk through there. Turn it over to Ricardo.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending my presentation here. As you can see, I am not dressed in formal dress like all the other speakers. This show is not formal at all, so that's kind of what I wanted to display, is that I am comfortable and showing the pride for my profession that I do. So I'm also glad that you guys showed up, because if you guys look here, it's got the 24th and it's the 23rd, and looking at my presentation, it costs $40 for the session, so Blake will go around here soon to help us out with the show, so thank you for that.
And he'll need that money when he goes to national NENA, so.
There you go. Yeah, so within the trenches, this is going to be our overview. There's only 14 slides, so we'll get going on this. What is Within the Trenches and how it got started, the guests that we've spoken to, the media spotlight, sponsors and events, and of course the conclusion, which will also be a Q&A for everybody if you have it. So, Within the Trenches, it's a podcast. Well, what exactly is a podcast? A podcast is a type of digital media consisting of an episodic series of audio radio. Now, your radio shows that you might listen to on normal radio, mainstream radio, I think around here it might be like Mojo in the Morning or something, but in Grand Rapids area, it's the Freeburn Howard Show. Well, all of these shows are now going to this format of podcasting, because just like Netflix and Hulu, you can watch it whenever you want to watch it, and that's where everybody's going to. Well, with these radio shows, it's the same thing. With the invention of the iPod, the iPhone, anything that you can listen to music on, you can subscribe and take all of these shows with you and listen to them whenever you want. So that's where everything is going to with podcasts. Now, this podcast in particular is based on the experience of being a 911 dispatcher. And what that means exactly is these are stories about you, all of you. It's telling what we do, really highlighting us. Because most of the time, when you hear about dispatch, what is it? What do you hear about dispatch on the news? Negative. Exactly. Well, this is to show a different side, for people to really learn about what we do, especially the public. But for us as 911 professionals, we can learn from each other. We can hear a story and think, I've gone through that myself, and maybe chuckle about it. That's interesting. Well, I'm going to tell you how I got started in 911 dispatch. Now, I moved to Florida. Actually, let me start that again. I went to visit my mother in Florida. I only went to visit her for about a week or so. Well, it ended up turning into about 3 or 4 months. And I'm living there with her. I'm not working or anything. And finally, my mom said, well, how about you go look for a job? All right, I got the hint. I'll go look. Well, I couldn't find anything. I was looking all over the place, could not find a job. And finally she says, you know, your cousin is, she knows the chief of police for, and I was staying in the city of Frostproof in Florida. Anybody ever hear of Frostproof? Oh, you have? Sure. Oh, well, that's the first. All right. Well, I was living there, and I had no dispatch experience whatsoever. You know, I had managed a couple places. That was about it. But I went in, I applied, and the chief of police called me in, and I had my interview. Well, I'm sitting there with the chief and the lieutenant, and they're going through all these questions. I'm nervous, you know, I'm sweating, probably stinking like a pig and everything. And he comes up with this question to me, and he says, "What kind of skeletons do you have in your closet?" Now, I sat there for a moment, and I said, I don't know what you mean. And he says, no, you know what I mean. What kind of skeletons do you have in your closet? And I paused for a moment, and I kind of laughed, and I said, well, I stole a car once. And he was like, wait, what? And I said, I stole a car once. Is that good enough skeleton for you? Well, they kind of chuckled a little bit and looked at each other and then looked back at me, and you know, it didn't have the effect that I thought it was going to have. You know, they ended up saying, no, seriously, did you? And I said, yeah, I did. I did steal a car once. However, it was a civil situation. I was a co-signer. I had already spoken to the police, and this was here in Michigan. And they said, and I'm sure all of you know, civil situation, they don't get involved. You got to go to court for it or go and get it yourself. So I went and got my car. I went and stole it. So that was my way of getting into dispatch. But you know, it took about 2 or 3 months for me to hear anything from that agency. I thought I screwed myself completely with that bold joke. You know, even though I got kind of a chuckle out of them. Well, then one day, just out of the blue, the chief of police shows up. And he actually showed up at my house, and I remember he's pounding on the door, and my grandmother, who only speaks Spanish, was trying to talk to him, and she comes running towards me and he's telling me, the police are here, the police are here. I'm like, oh crap, what's going on? So I go over there, and it's the chief of police, and he says, hey, you still want the job? And I said, yeah, sure, I really do. You know, I thought I screwed myself with that joke with you, but if you're going to give me the job, that'd be great. So he says, you got to come in at 10 o'clock tonight. So you're going to work midnight shift. I was like, okay. So I went in, and my training at that time was just watching my trainer take a couple calls. And he said, all right, Ricardo, it's your turn. I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, it's your turn. Oh, okay. But that's all the training that I had. It wasn't until almost a month later that I was sent to what's now standard. It's like a 40-hour dispatching course. So that's how I got into my whole dispatching career. The rest is history. So back with this, within the trenches, how did it start? It started as a class assignment for my digital story class that I was doing. Now this was 2010, I believe, and I was doing my bachelor's for graphic design. What I wanted us to do with this digital story was to either do some sort of animation with music telling the story or an audio slideshow and add music as well. Well, of course, I wanted to be different and do something else, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff in the news, about dispatch, and I was dispatching myself, so I wanted to do something different. I wanted to start telling some stories. So I got a hold of a couple coworkers, Kristen and Alexis, and I told them what I wanted to do. They weren't sure about it at first. I was like, no, this will be good. It opens up, it would open up the eyes for people to learn more of what we're doing. So I told them that I was going to take some pictures of them, and except for when you see this, it's a little funny because Alexis, she ended up, during this time, she went on vacation to London. So I couldn't get a bunch of pictures of her at the console. So I threw in a couple of those pictures from London because I had nothing else. So it's going to be them telling their story, how they got into dispatch, their best call and their worst call. So start that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Trista, and I have been a 911 dispatcher for 3.5 years with Allan County Central Dispatch. I decided to apply for the job because I had just recently graduated from college with a degree in fire science. I thought it would be a good opportunity to work with emergency services and learn about communication within a scene. One of the worst calls I have taken was a homicide. I received a call from the girlfriend of the victim, and she was hysterical to the point where I couldn't understand hardly anything she was saying besides bits and pieces. Her boyfriend had been stabbed by a friend of theirs. He was lying on the ground covered in blood. He unfortunately passed away, and after the call I kept replaying everything in my head. I had been at dispatch under a year, and this was the first call I had taken like this. I was questioning, if only I could have understood her or dispatched help faster, would he have survived? It helped that the officer said there was nothing that I could have done, but it's still a call that I will forever remember. One of the best calls I remember taking is a missing person report. I took the information from a relative who was out of state and concerned about their family member. The information was given out to officers in case they happened to come across the vehicle or the person involved. The next day when I came into work, one of my partners said when she had received a call from the family member who had reported the missing person. They located their relative and wanted to thank me for how helpful I was to them. It's rare when we get a thank you like this, so this is a time that I will always remember that some people truly do appreciate what we do for them. I do this job because I not only enjoy helping people, but I never know what kind of call that I will get when the phone rings. We have a lot of emergencies that come in through our non-emergency line, so you can't always assume it's a barking dog or a parking problem. You have to be ready for anything with each and every time that you pick up the phone.
My name is Alexis, and I have been a 911 dispatcher for Allan County Central Dispatch for 6 years this May. I became interested in becoming a dispatcher because I have a degree in communications, and I've always had a fascination with criminal justice, and that's what my minor is in. One of the worst calls that I have taken was in the fall of 2009. We received a call from a home, and before I could get any contact on the line with the subject, the person had hung up. We sent officers to the residence where they remained on scene for approximately 30 minutes. Turns out that there was a domestic dispute at the residence. They left the house and cleared the scene. Approximately 15 to 20 minutes later, the phone rang again, the same house, and the male subject was on this phone screaming that his wife had shot herself in the head. All I could hear was screams and children crying in the background. It was a shocking and horrific call, trying to get help out to her, not knowing whether or not she had survived or not, and hearing the father yell at his children not to leave the scene and to remain next to their mother. I felt helpless and out of control, being that there was nothing I could do being on the other end of the line. We did get officers and help back en route to the scene, and she did pass away. Being a 911 operator, I feel, takes a special person. It's a niche job. You're with people in their darkest moments and sometimes in their brightest hours. Everything from delivering a small baby to handling a car accident with a child that's been killed. It's a tough job, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy helping our community and serving the public.
So that was Behind the Mic, Stories from the Trenches, and that I did in 2010. That was the assignment that I had to do for class, and I got an excellent grade on it. And the professor and my classmates and everybody really enjoyed it because it's something that they don't hear. The calls were, they're crazy calls that we deal with all the time, but it's something people don't know about. Like I said in the beginning, all they know is the negativity. So that's how I wanted to start this, with that video. So going on to a year later, April 2011, I started my blog, The Jabberlug, and it was about everything. The tagline for my blog is blogging on everything for everyone, and that's exactly what it was. It was all about news, tech stuff, music, promotions. It was about everything. Well, it also had my personal stories, and this wasn't just dispatch yet. I hadn't started within the trenches yet. This was my personal stories that people didn't know about, and they were funny stories. I wanted to share everything, and I found it to be therapeutic. I mean, one of the stories that I put on there, one of the first ones, was the first time I got caught skipping school. You know, what a fool, right? Skipping school, but I got caught by my parents. I was at a fast food joint, and they were sitting in the drive-thru line, and I turn around all smiling and laughing, and I see them right there. And my parents are all smiling and laughing, and my father turns and he looks at me, and the smile disappeared. It was death. And yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for that, but I got smart. I didn't get caught yet. But, you know, it was stories like that was part of my blog. Well, I was taking a lot of different calls at work, and one of them that really got to me was, had to have been May. Yeah, it was just a month later. That's when I started adding within the trenches a written segment to the blog. And in that one, I was talking about, you know, the funny calls that I've taken, serious calls, of course, and the good ones. But I talked about when my grandmother passed away. I took that phone call from my family, and I added that on there because I wanted people to know that, you know, you work in the county that you used to live in, and you're going to take calls like that. You know, I wanted it to be that real. So going from that, I wanted it to be even more real. So during my my master's degree for new media journalism, I started doing podcasts, and that really stuck with me. I really enjoyed doing the podcast. I was doing different assignments for adding coworkers. Actually, Whitney was in one of them, and another coworker. She's a breast cancer survivor, and I wanted to tell her story. So we did an episode. I did one with the K-9 unit, and it kept going, and it was called the Emergency Services Series is what I had. Well, from there, I wanted to turn my written segment of Within the Trenches into a podcast. I wanted it to be more personal for people to learn more about us. Not just us in dispatch, but for the public, because you have to admit that the public knows nothing about what we do. They don't understand. They don't understand at all. They don't understand why we're putting them on hold for something when they're calling 911. So I went to Kickstarter. Does anybody know what Kickstarter is? No? Okay. Kickstarter is a crowdfunding website. Now, what people can do is they can go onto this website, and for example, if, let's say you, Matt, you want to record an album, well, you could go on there, put the entire overview, add pledge amounts and rewards, and if the site gives it the green light, you get to go on there and promote, and then people help you fund it. Well, that's what I ended up doing. I threw this on there, I got the green light, and one of the first things was that there was a $25 pledge, and if you did it, you got this shirt. This is the original one. There's a new version that's coming out, but this was the original one. And I was doing all kinds of promotions, and I got to about the end of the campaign, which was 30 days, and I was freaking out. I didn't think I was going to get it at all because I was stuck at $605, and the money that I was trying to raise was $1,500 to buy all the equipment that I'm sure a lot of you have seen when we were sitting out there throughout this week. So yeah, I was completely freaking out. So with 37 hours left, I ended up going on this huge promotion spree. And one of the first people I sent an email to was Gary Allan with Dispatch Magazine Online. Any of you ever check out that website? If not, you should. It's got a lot of great news. I sent him an email, and I told him about Within the Trenches and what I was trying to do. And I told him right off the bat, I'm not looking for any money from you. I just want to see if you can help me spread the word. So I didn't hear back from him right away, so I was kind of sad, but I moved on. I sent an email out to Allan Sentinel as well, a local newspaper over there where I live, and also WZZM and a few other places. I didn't think I was going to get anything from them at all. Well, a few hours later, I get an email back from Gary Allan, and he says, this sounds like a great idea. It's a good concept. You're right. People need to know what you guys do. You know, you're the unsung heroes, the ones that nobody see, and you know, we're the first responders. So he wrote up just a small paragraph of what I was doing, and I kid you not, within 24 hours, I had surpassed my goal. I was actually 250 over, I believe, and people were coming out of everywhere to help out, and it was awesome. You know, I was it was great to see that people really backing this concept. There was a company out of Indiana, In Digital. They ended up donating the majority of the money for the show to go through. There was also Mark Fletcher, who's with Avea, and he does an E911 podcast, and if you've never heard it, you should check that one out as well. His are about 7 to 8 minutes long, and it's all about the technology part of 911. And he had sent me an email, and he says, I don't have money to donate to you right now because it's not in my budget. However, I can pay for a voiceover for your intro and outro because it was a guy that he used. So he donated the services of Spider Harrison, who does radio for Sirius XM. And so when you hear the episodes, that's who the voice is in the beginning. Actually, the very first voice is Whitney. But right after that, within the intro, is Spider Harrison, and he does the outro as well. So it was great to see so many people who wanted to back this project. Now, our guests, and I was hoping that Dave from Barry County was going to be here because when we were doing these episodes in the beginning, the very first episode was Whitney and I. She was actually the person that I interviewed because it was just me at first. And then it was 2 other coworkers. And then I got an email on LinkedIn. And it said, Barry County and Within the Trenches podcast. And then for the body of the email, all it said was, how would you like to get the Irish perspective of 911? Well, I kind of laughed at first. I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Someone from Barry County, the agency, is emailing me. I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Why didn't they put their name on there? So I thought that was weird. Well, I kept in contact with him, and for whatever reason, I didn't think anything of it, that it was just the agency. I went ahead and kept emailing him, but I never said his first name in any email. I just put, hello, hey there. I never did it because I wasn't confident enough to know, should I put that? Is his name Barry? What's going on here? Well, so finally I started LinkedIn stalking him a little bit to get more information on this person, and sure enough, his name is Barry County. It's actually spelled B-A-R-R-Y, County. I thought, oh, crap. I was like, all right, So the last email that I had sent before we did the episode was, this whole time I'm emailing you and I've never said your name because I didn't know your name. Well, now I realize that your name is Barry County. And he sent me an email back with a bunch of LOLs and ha-ha-ha's saying, usually people say something to me right off the bat, but you waited till the last minute, so this is going to be an awesome episode. I was like, okay, well, I got a hold of him, and he's actually a dispatcher in Dublin, Ireland. He's an aeromedical dispatcher there. And we were talking in the beginning before the podcast, and I said, okay, as much as this is going to make me look like a fool, I'm going to mention this story about your name in the agency because it's going to be funny. And he's like, oh, yeah, do it. So, it was good. We've gotten in contact ever since. And the other episode 5, WZZM actually got a hold of me. And they said, we are very interested in this, and we would like to do a story on it. And the Holland Sentinel also got a hold of me as well, and they wanted to do one. Well, in episode 5, Angela Cunningham with WZZM, she came out, she did an interview with Whitney and I, and that's when I ended up announcing her as the co-host of the show, and we did an episode with her, and the new segment on it I'm going to show here in a moment. But episode 6, as you can see there in the pictures, Whit and I, and then there's Jen and Crystal with Ottawa County. That was also another good episode. It was good to finally make that connection with a neighboring agency, and to find out why they only use Ottawa when they call. When they just say, hey, this is Ottawa. Why don't you guys ever use your names? Well, we never really thought about it until now. So now they use their name. So it's kind of funny that they stuck with it. But episode 7 was Joshua with West Bloomfield Township PD. That episode, it's an important episode. It's one that I recommend that all of you listen to. He was sitting on radios with a trainee when a good friend of his, an officer, was shot and killed in the line of duty. And he talks about that story, and it was heart-wrenching. I mean, we're doing this on Skype. We can't see him. It was just audio. And it was hard for Whitney and I to do this because we're hearing him get emotional, and we're trying not to cry either. So definitely check out that episode. It's a good one to listen to and to learn from, of course. We talked to the director of Chilton County in Alabama, and that was the one with the tornadoes, correct?
Yeah, they had 256 tornadoes touch down in the matter of 2 days.
Yeah, we talked to him about that, and when we did this episode, he was actually at work, and he would say, okay, hold on a minute, and we could hear people in the background, and then he'd come back, he's like, okay, I'm ready now. So it was good. Episode 9, we spoke to Bobby, and she dispatched for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Now, that one was informative, it was interesting, but it was really funny because, we always take calls with dogs. People call and they say, the neighbor's dog is in my yard. Can you get animal control out here, or an officer, or something, something to that nature? Can you get somebody out here to help me out? Well, she gets calls for bears in people's yards. So completely different, that and having to deal with avalanches. I can't even think about dealing with an avalanche. Anybody who's on Facebook, if you guys, who or what Diary of Mad Dispatcher is. Okay, well, episode 18, we actually got a hold of Kristen Kitchen, who is the Mad Dispatcher, and we interviewed her, and actually we recorded it. So it's on YouTube and it's on the fan page if you guys ever want to check it out. It was a very good one. Here we are, episode 12. You can't kind of see me in there for some reason. It looks better on my screen. But there's Whitney, and it's just some pictures that we take every now and then. And every time we record somebody that's with us in-house, we try to take pictures so that we can add it. And
second Matt walked out the door, we were like,
oh, I know, because we forgot to get him because he left so quick. He's like, get back. We forgot to take the picture.
Let's take a picture today so we can throw it in here.
So the media spotlight, as I said, Dispatch Magazine Online, they helped out a lot with the show, with just that one little blurb on their website. It exploded the whole idea here. And they actually have a 911 tape library. So if you guys ever want to go and listen to different tapes or anything else, they have from 2006 all the way to present time. And there's a disclaimer on there as well saying that you can use them for whatever you want. They're all FOIA, it's all gone through the process. So if you ever want to use them, check them out, just Google it and you can take them off from there. But we are using those tapes in the show as well. I got permission from him, so I wanted the green light from him personally to let us use these tapes within the show so that people can hear them, learn from them, and just have an experience. The E911 podcast with Mark Fletcher and Philadelphia, he got a hold of me, and I was actually a guest on his show talking about Within the Trenches. And then Hound Sentinel and WCZM, which I'm going to show here in just a moment, they had some articles about the show as well. There's me. That's my front page there on the Hound Sentinel, talking about how I got into dispatch and the whole creation of the show.
911, where's your emergency?
It's a call you hope you never have to make.
Okay, what street are you off of?
But if you ever do, you're grateful when that 911 dispatcher picks up the phone line.
Because I know that I might be that voice on the other end for a screaming mother, an abused wife.
It's a tough, often stressful job, and one many of us truly don't understand. That motivated Allan County dispatcher Ricardo Martinez to launch his new internet radio show, Within the Trenches.
The public will be able to finally see, wow, now I know what they actually go through while they're taking a call.
Martinez and co-host Whitney Wisner share stories about the wide variety of calls they handle, from those that are a matter of life and death to those a little less serious.
We actually do get calls where cats are stuck in a tree and they want us to go help them, or they'll call a 911 for fireworks or parade times.
It is exciting to give our story, but it is also nerve-wracking. Like Ricardo said, you don't ever want the public to think, well, here they go. They're going to tell these awful stories.
This day, I sat in as a guest on the show to see up close and personal what it's all about.
That's how our brains work. We're talking about news releases and how you get them, and then all of a sudden I just take it to
Back to crap.
The banter toggles between the humorous to the serious, but it's always informative.
Because people don't call 911 all the time. So the 1 or 2 times they do in their life, we just want them to know what's going on our side.
Because I want people to know why we are putting them on hold. You know, they'll be calling in with a medical, you know, someone's having a heart attack, but we have to put them on hold in order to page out the ambulance. But people don't always understand that.
And in a big way, this show is therapeutic for the dispatchers who rarely get closure after a call.
I'm giving CPR instructions, and the ambulance gets there. I don't know what's going to happen. They end up going to the hospital, and then, you know, we wonder. But we go right to the next call.
Within the Trenches is a sort of reality radio, but about real issues that matter.
You go home and you feel not satisfied, but you feel accomplished. Like I was really able to do what the citizens of Allegan County expected from me today.
That was a story that WZZM did with us, and that episode was a funny episode in the sense that we were bridging the gap there of the news media and 911 dispatch. And we're sitting there, and I made mention of that to Angela. I said, you know, we're bridging the gap here between, you know, news and 911. And she says, you know, tell me for real, are we really that annoying? I'm like, yeah, let's move on. But you know, it was really good, you know, to have them there and go through this with us. Now the sponsors and events, this slide actually did not change. We did this presentation for our 911 board in the beginning, and then it was a little more relevant. So, because as you can see, we're currently seeking sponsors, and that's not me saying, hey, that $40, no, I'm not looking for money from you. Just the status of the show, we're looking for sponsors to, you know, continue the show. And I am currently speaking right now at the NENA conference, as you can see there. Now, we were invited to the one in Indiana, and that one I believe was last month, but because we're dispatchers, you know, the schedule is hectic, so we had to pull out of that one. But I was invited to Boca Raton, which was a month or so ago, and that one was very nice. The Mini-C conference over there. I went and showed up, and I recorded 4 episodes. And one of the guys that I spoke to, his name's Al. He's 95 years old. He just had his birthday, and he works with Boca Raton 911. Now he's just a volunteer, and he doesn't get paid to do it, but he's volunteered 12 years doing 911 because he loves it. So that episode, I can't remember what episode it is now. I think it's 16 or so, but that is one to check out because he had a lot of good stuff to say. The last episode that I recorded there was with this dispatch academy that they have, because in Florida, I don't know if you know, you have to get a certification to be a 911 professional. I believe there was a bill that was passed for Denise Amber Lee, and with that, you know, it came with a certification, a standardization of 911. So that's what they were doing there, and you know, on that day, it was a little odd because I'm sitting there doing these interviews, and I see these people run out. I'm like, what are they running from? And usually, if somebody runs, I'm gonna haul and run myself. You know, I'm not gonna ask any questions. I'm just gonna take off. Well, I was doing the show, and I couldn't really, you know, run with all my equipment. So I see people taking off, and I hear sirens going off. And we're sitting there, and I'm still talking, yet listening to them, like we all do as 911 professionals, multitasking. And after the episode, they come back. I said, what was going on? And on that day, for that whole day, they were doing an active shooter class. Well, they actually had an active shooter incident happen during that time. And it was just around the corner from where we were at. A husband ended up going into the bank and went up to the top with, you know, a gun and went after his wife. And so it was crazy that we were there for active shooter, and that happened during that time. But talking to those the students for the academy, it was good to hear them talk about their love for dispatch. You know, how they felt when they first walked into the dispatch center and saw all these screens. You know, you could see on their face that they were kind of scared, you know, thinking about it. But it made me, you know, think back to my start. So that's another good episode for you to listen to take you back. We'll also be going to Las Vegas. Success Communications has a 911 for 911 conference, and we're going to be heading over there and doing episodes as well, and continuing to promote what we're doing with the show. Now, as for the conclusion of this, all I ask from you is to help us spread the word. Like I said before, we've got a Facebook fan page, and it's facebook.com/withinthetrenchespodcast. Just like it, share it. Social media is great. However, word of mouth is even better. So, if anything, help us spread the word of the show, because it's very important that people know more about us. Us sharing our stories. Where can we be heard? You can hear us on iTunes. Go into iTunes, just search Within the Trenches. We'll pop up right there. You can subscribe to it. It's all free. And every time I post something on the blog, on thejeverlog.com, every time I post one on there, it will automatically populate. So you'll have them. You can take them everywhere that you go. There's also Stitcher Radio. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Stitcher or not, but it's like Pandora. Have you heard of Pandora? Anybody? Okay. And like Pandora, you choose like an 80s music genre or something, and it just populates different songs that you might like. Well, Stitcher is the same way, but it's for podcasts. And they've got excellent stuff on there, but Within the Trenches is more excellent. So if you get a chance, check it out on that as well. There's also Spreaker. We do shows live as well. Whitney and I, when we're doing shows, just her and I, and listening to tapes or playing tapes over the air, those are the live shows. And more of the in-house shows that we do, we're going to do those live as well. And also, there's a chat function on there, so people can ask us questions while we're doing the show. So we're implementing that, and I think that'll be great as well. There's also SoundCloud. It's trying to do more with SoundCloud. It's pretty much the same, music format. You can search everything on there and listen to it. There's an app for it, of course, like everything else. And that's it. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Now we're to the Q&A section of it. And also, if you want to get more information or actually be on an episode, Whitney's got her laptop over here, and we can take your name and email, and we can get a hold of you. There's actually an open call event that we did on Facebook. I think we have about 160 different dispatchers from around the United States that want to be on the show. But because everything's been so busy lately, we haven't been able to get a hold of everybody. So we've got that as well. But yeah, definitely if you guys want to be on the show, let us know. Get a hold of us. But any questions? Any questions at all? Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Is there a URL that you can get directly from the...
Yes. If you go to thejeverlog.com, right on the top, you'll see the link. It'll say Within the Trenches. You just click on there. And actually, when you click on it, I have a player that I embedded, and you can listen to every single episode that's been uploaded on there. And I believe it's up to episode 18 right now. I have 19 through 22 that are recorded here to edit still, and then those will be added on there. But if you just go to thejeverlog.com, click on Within the Trenches, and you'll have it all right there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Have you run into any issues or concerns legally as far as giving out information about calls when people don't even work at Allan?
Right.
About a call, you may not get the name, but everybody knows you're talking about this or whatever.
Right. No, we do everything that we can to avoid that. We don't use anybody's names. We don't give out addresses. We don't use specific locations or anything like that. I mean, we could say Water Tower Hill where this happened, and somebody could get us for that. So we make sure not to use any things like that. We tell our stories, but we don't use anything that would get us sued.
Right, and then I imagine as far as when the guests come on as well, you advise them.
Oh, of course, yeah, all the time.
That's something I wouldn't know where that line is.
Right, yeah, and the episodes are pre-recorded. Like I said, a lot of them we're going to start doing live, more of the in-house ones, but everything's pre-recorded. And if there is something that you end up saying and you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, you just say it out loud. Can you edit that? And I can edit it, because we can record as long as we want. And I just go back, I just mark where anybody said, maybe I should have had that on there. And if I hear something that should have been there either, I'll take it out. So, and I'm pretty good with the editing, so it goes smooth. But yeah, there's no worries, in that sense either. Yes?
How did you end up in Michigan when you started in Florida?
Well, actually, I'm born and raised in Michigan. I was born in Holland, grew up in Fenville, and I just went to visit my mom, and that's when I started living there after that. So I started my career out there and then moved back. So 8 years here and then 3 over there or so. Yeah, something like that. Anything else?
Is this a non-profit, profit organization, or what's your vision?
We need money first.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I actually, I do web and graphic design. So my business now is an LLC, and these shirts, for fans, we've got shirts, mugs, stickers, and everything else. I sell those on a web store. So I can't really say I'm a non-profit type.
But every single penny that's been made off the sale of shirts and mugs and everything has gone right back into the show. Ricardo and I have never taken a paycheck from it. We drive to go meet people. Yeah, we use all our own time. We don't use it on work time. Allegan County's been really supportive of us, but we don't do it, when we have extra people on. We don't say, hey, can we go record for a minute? So Ricardo and I have invested not only a significant amount of time, but also money behind this.
Yeah,
So ultimately, is your goal to be dispatchers for the long term, or is it to build the business up so that you can concentrate solely on that?
I would love to concentrate solely on this. I love dispatch, but if I could do this and stick with 911, that would be the ultimate goal.
I think we love dispatch so much that we want to help dispatchers. We like to help the community too. That's important to us, but the more we talk about it and go back and forth, the more we want to help our peers and coworkers.
I just want to say thank you because this isn't broadcast enough out there, and what you're doing is really helping the whole community in dispatch. So
thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I'd throw in there too to thank your director for us. Her support and making sure that you guys had a platform where you could do this and watch it in, so to speak, I think is important to the entire 911 community. How often, Damon said, how often do you get an opportunity to proactively go out there and educate in a positive way?
Right.
Very difficult to pull off.
Matt, do you remember what episode yours was? I can grab my notes and cheat.
15,
I was going to say it's right early teens. I might be biased, but Matt was my favorite interview that we did because Matt got, and I will get choked up just talking about it, but we got on a really personal level with Matt. And Ricardo and Megan and I lost a coworker, and Matt really deals with the aftermath of all that stuff. So Matt's episode is so valuable. So I'm going to have to find what episode it is, but I just recommend you listening to it. Matt's so filled with knowledge and
dealt with critical incident stress management, and that's something that is great for all of you to listen to because he points out a lot of things, symptoms, things to look for, and it was very interesting to hear. But when we got to that point, both of us are sitting there. It was hard, but it was good having you there because you were there, that morning. So thank you for showing up and doing that episode with us. Any other questions, thoughts? Yes.
I just want to pass along to everybody that's here, and for those that you go back and speak to about this, they really should consider making a contribution. Not only is it cathartic to you, but everybody that does what we do has a significant contribution to be able to talk about what you do so that others understand, in your worst days, your worst months, and your worst years, you feel alone because you're disconnected to your coworkers. There's always a connection you can make with someone out there. So just think about making a contribution at some point. I don't mean today, tomorrow, or next month. At some point for you.
That's very good to say. During the time that this was really building up in the beginning, I was getting a lot of emails on the original fan page, and it actually had to do with the T-shirt giveaway that we were doing with Threadsy T out of Petoskey. they had to listen to episode 1. And now the whole thing with the giveaway was they had to like our page and like the Red ZT's page. And then once they did that, they needed to listen to the first 6 minutes of episode 1, where I tell the chief of police that I stole a car. And that's what they had to email me. I want you to tell me what I told the chief of police during my interview. What did I do when he asked me about the skeletons? So I was getting all of these emails coming in. And there was a girl, I believe she was from Missouri, and she was halfway through her training. And she was thanking me for the show because she was listening to the episodes. And she thought, and she wanted to quit. She wanted to quit her training because she thought that nobody else was going through the same situation like her. Well, then once she heard one of the stories, she didn't go into any detail, so I can't say what story it was, but she heard this story on one of the episodes, and it clicked with her. She was able to relate with that, and she ended up going through with the training, and she's fully a dispatcher now. So it's been good. People can really relate to this. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.